Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of CookieCast. Today on CookieCast, it's the darkest timeline again. We're here again, another week. I got older in the last week. Yeah, that was an experience. Let's put it that way. Talking a little bit of technology this week. The ups and downs of technology, and then it's straight into the entertainment stuff. The TV. The movies, computer games that span 3 different platforms, if you can believe that. So, if you're here for the computer games, you're covered. Before we get started, please do consider like, share, subscribe, and comment. Leave a review where you can leave a review. Biggest one there that anybody that listens or watches can do is share the podcast around. Get that word of mouth going. Right. That's enough for this. Let's get started. Here we go. This is CookieCast, the darkest timeline. Hello. How you doing? I can only presume that part of that was masked by the creaky chair. For effect, there was a creak. I often think, maybe I'll get a new chair. This chair could be 15 years old. It stopped going up and down recently. Still serves as a chair. Thank you for joining me for Chaircast. Hope you all enjoyed that section of this week's Chaircast. Anyway, enough about that. How are you doing? You well? You good? Living life? Living large? As always, I have to presume the answer is yes, because, it's a little bit one way this. As ever, if the answer is no, go to the website, click the email button, write an email and say, just say no, and I will immediately email you and say, sit. So, biggest day of the year, last year, I mean, come on. Biggest day of the year last week. I think we can all agree on that, because that's right, I aged. Oh, and I felt every minute of it. No, that's not necessarily true. At this point in time, I'd like to issue a retraction. I think the theme for certainly the last couple of weeks has been very sort of clear on a particular subject. I spoke overly harshly about my upcoming birthday. That largely came off the back of Father's Day. I was doing the whole, wouldn't it be nice to just have one day, everyone else can have the other 364, but just one day where it's just your day. And ultimately, if your birthday can't be your day, then what are we doing here? And I then went on to be very mean about family, mostly. Karma was like, hey, don't be a dick. And if you're being a dick, then it's time to bitch slap some sense into you. And Karma went about highlighting that I was a dick. I know, right? It's almost like we already knew. I was supposed to play golf all morning on my birthday, and Karma said, how about this? Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make it glorious sunshine on the Monday, which I will have talked about at the time. It could not have physically been any better of a golf day than it was. Tuesday, torrential rain. Now I knew this was not a surprise to me. It wasn't like it said it was going to be sunny and then it wasn't. It had told me this for, a week minimum. So no surprises, and I sort of planned around this to a degree. I think it's one of those when your entire plan goes out the window. There's that element of nothing's going to be as good, nothing's going to come close. A lot of stuff Elijah came back to. The weather was not going to be good. So there was those aspects to take into account. Ultimately, come the morning, there was a lot of, oh, well, what about this? Oh, what about that? And, oh, aren't we going to do this? And are we going to go here? And are we going to go there? And I threw a spanner in the works because I rocked up. And I was like, hey, you know what we should be doing today, when already a plan had kind of been put in place. I burnt through an hour and a half in the morning by just existing. And that was largely that. I got up and I went for a climb first thing. Got home, walked the dog, got back. So the agreement was that instead of doing any of the stuff that I had originally planned or anything else, it was going to be a case of me and Leanne and my son going to go to a cafe that we like, and coffee and cake. I think there's nothing especially wrong with that. I must have been when I got home from climbing. My daughter comes to me. Youngest daughter comes to me. Daddy, I've got a present for you. I'm like, okay, cool. She hands me something. It's one of those, no spring chicken these days. I kind of had an idea what it might be from the shape and the feel of it. I was like, going to go out on a limb, say this is an item of clothing. And if I had to guess, it'd probably be a t-shirt. Now, I am a man who had asked for a t-shirt for my birthday. You put two and two together, you go, I'm thinking it's that t-shirt. I opened the gift, and it was, in fact, the t-shirt I'd asked for. And I went, that's fantastic. Thank you. And then there was an issue. And the issue was that Leanne was like, that's the wrong item. I was like, okay, that's what I asked for. She's like, no. Your daughter has picked something different for you. So hang on a minute. Going at the right thing. She comes back. A very similar looking gift. I'm like, okay. Immediately you're in the danger zone. Immediately you've run straight into the zone of, this is, again, for a better way of putting it, not what I asked for. Your daughter picked this herself, and she wanted you to have this. This is a gift from her. And I went, okay, well, that makes it all okay. I opened the gift, and it was, in fact, a t-shirt. I laughed so hard that I reached a point where I couldn't breathe, and I started crying. No word of that is a lie or a joke. I laughed so hard and for so long, I reached a point where I was like, I can't breathe. And I'm crying. And I wiped the tears from my eyes and showed them to my daughter. I was like, look, these are the tears. My daughter then got upset because I was crying. And Leanne's like, no, they're tears of joy. And I'm like, that is the best t-shirt I own. Hands down, the greatest t-shirt in existence. It combines three of like some of my favourite things. Number one, old style Japanese art with like the waves and the scrolls and things like that. Down like one side of it. The other side was a cat Godzilla. It is hands down the greatest t-shirt that has ever been created. I had to, in the end, the only way I could deal with it was I had to turn it away from me. I couldn't look at it anymore because it was too great a t-shirt. And honestly, the t-shirt / gift / enjoyment really set the scene for the day. Years gone by, I've kind of done the, hey, don't worry about getting me a gift for birthday or Christmas or whatever. Because I don't want anything, I don't need anything. Some years I've been like, which list do you want? The big one or the really big one? And other years I've been like, hey, I can probably find a couple of things from like my Amazon basket that I can just let you know. Stuff that I've never got around to buying or being able to afford. Put those down as like gifts. That's that. This year was a little bit in the camp of, look, there's a few things I'd like. A lot of them centre around my specific interests. A lot of them centre around things I haven't got around to purchasing but need, and so on and so forth. So, like I say, I went off and walked the dog. Youngest daughter went off to school, and we went to get coffee and cake. So, get to the cafe. There's three of us. I'm like, knowing the way my son is with a bit of cake, I was like, he's going to need his own piece of cake. Luckily, there was a situation where there was 3 different cakes that we were like, oh, they look good. And I was like, well, hang on a minute. There's 3 of us. He'll need his own piece. 1, 2, 3. Job done. So that's what we did. We had 3 pieces of cake and a big old pot of coffee. The coffee is phenomenal. It doesn't feel like it's sort of overly too much bells and whistles. You can't even get milk for it, which works really well for me. But they will do some sort of sugar, which again works for me. So a big pot of coffee. We all shared 3 bits of cake, and yes, I was right. Basically, my son. I think at one point we had to kind of like take forks off him and things because he was just helping himself to cake. At that point, it was kind of a situation where it was like, right, we've got to get home without him falling asleep so he can go up to bed. He did that, and I was like, working on the principle I was supposed to play golf. I'd worked on the principle I wouldn't need to do certain things on my birthday, like running and working out. You walk an average of 5.5 miles, playing around a golf, and it's kind of exercise. And it was my birthday. As it was, I was like, I might as well go and do my workout and my run. It was a bit of a sort of dead time before going to collect all of the girls. Went to collect all the girls. There was like various points throughout the day where my son had been like opening my presents for me. Which is fine. I'm not fussed about that. But the gifts were great. Every single gift was an absolute banger. A lot of stuff that I'd asked for. Which, can you understand what I mean if I said, kind of makes me feel bad? Like saying, oh, I got something I asked for. It's like, I kind of feel bad. So, I started making like a large pile of gifts. I got a couple of cards with some items in that I'd specifically requested. So again, it was like, that's great. That's wonderful. Super, super generous. And now I feel bad. It was a little bit like that. Went and collected my daughters. Brought them back. There was this thing, and it was like we had like this quick turnaround where we had to make food and do gifts, and I had to get my eldest to her dance lesson and get back so that my middle daughter could also go. A very complicated situation. Basically, everyone needed to eat and presents needed to be opened. I opened multiple gifts. They were all amazing. Hands down, the best selection of gifts. And by the end of the day, I was like, there is not a single thing that I asked for that I didn't get, sort of thing. And again, I feel weird saying things like that. So that was that. I was absolutely exhausted. By the time the older two had gone and the other two were in bed, I just wanted to go to bed. It was like 7 o'clock. I was like, I am ready for bed. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get a solid 5-minute power nap. And that'll see me through my evening. At which point I had a message from our good friend, Mr. Williams, and he and his good lady wife and their new addition were on their way. So I was like, well, there goes my power nap. Jumped up, got sorted. So I had a visit from Mr. Williams and his good lady and their new addition to their family. I got to hold a tiny baby, which, quite frankly, awesome. Don't know if you were aware, but I love babies. That might be a surprise. And tiny babies is something that I'm not overly used to, because my babies, apart from one who wasn't exactly tiny, they've all been monsters. So, got to hold a tiny baby. That was nice. Mr. Williams arrived at my house with a large box with a substantial collection of gifts. Was like, whoa, that's a lot of items. I opened them later when people had gone, and I always have this thing. I think I've talked about this before, but in years gone by, some of the true highlights of my birthday have been seeing Paul on the day. Honestly, there have been years where I've like, this might be the worst birthday I've ever had, and then like Paul will turn up, or that sort of thing, and it's actually sort of turned the tide of the day. So I always appreciate seeing Paul. I always appreciate that he takes the time out to make the effort to see me on my birthday. I had some lovely messages from people. I always find it's one of those, like with things like social media and text and stuff. You hear from people that I heard from people where I looked and like the last message before it was like happy birthday from the year before. So you get like that kind of situation. Some people you hear from is like, oh, you have a bit of a chat and stuff. And it's just nice. So Paul and his, I suppose you have to say family now. Paul and his family left. And yeah, I ended up opening the gifts from him, and that sort of brought me, tea, put something on to watch, and that was that. Leon promptly went off to bed, And I sort of descended into this. I don't know what you'd call it, like some sort of kind of like a euphoria, kind of like a, I was really happy whilst being quite emotional, whilst being very grateful, whilst feeling a little bit silly, whilst feeling a little bit like a bit like I was saying before, like a bit like karma had punished me for being a dick, and part of that felt like it was like, what's the best way to really teach you a lesson? How about you have a good birthday? How about that? Yeah, what do you think to that? It was kind of that sort of thing. So I just found myself like wandering around the house, doing like little jobs and just trying not to cry while simultaneously being really happy. It was a very strange time. And ultimately, I think I probably played computer games and went to bed and chalked it off as a good birthday. Absolutely amazing birthday. A right banger. And yes, like I said at the start, I have to apologise to certainly my family for, I don't know, being a dick. I think that's probably just a standing apology. So one of the gifts I received was some money. Long story about why that is. Ultimately, I had said, I know that there are games coming out further into the year, and what would be really nice to do is from my birthday have the opportunity to purchase the games later down the line. So if anybody asks, I would like either Steam or Meta credit. As it was, I got some Steam credit. I got quite a bit of Steam credit, which allowed me to absolutely rinse the Steam sale. I just picked the bones on that one. And then I was given some money, which I was like, right, I'm going to put this money to one side, because, like I say, there are a couple of games coming out later in the year that I would want to get, so that I can just buy them when they come out. Job done. I sent messages saying, thank you very much, I really appreciate it. Here's what I'm going to do with the money. And that was that. I think it was Friday evening. I've been getting into watching a video on YouTube. So I should probably give a shout out. I think that's the way it's done these days, isn't it? What are the chances? No, that's not it either. Right, let's not mess around. Let's see. I know it's called like VR news. It's always there, except when you need it. And I'm going to end up being in a situation where I'm going to have to abandon trying to find it. Ball sacks. Yeah. I apologise to the VR news guy. What are the chances that I can find? Hang on a minute. Hang on. I don't want to apologise. History. I have to trawl through all the videos that I haven't watched, that I've just hovered over. I don't think it. No, that is it. Sorry if that was right. Okay, so it's called, the video seems to be called "New VR Games Coming Up Next Week." Meta Quest 3, PC VR, blah 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 blah, and the guy is Reese the King VR. Rise the King. Yeah, that worked out real well. I'm really glad that I put all that time and effort into that one. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It does matter because, you know, doing good work and all that. But anyway, tried to give a shout out, went horribly wrong. Yay me. I was sat, full disclosure, in the bathroom, watching the video, minding my own, all of that. And there was, what's coming up? What's coming out? And what's coming out? They announced the release of Into the Radius 2. And I went, I'm sorry, what? Because that was one of the 2 games that I wanted money or credit or whatever for. That are coming out in the future, and in actual fact the game comes out next week, and I went, well, honestly, that game went from being in my top 10 games from almost the instant I played it to making it into my top 5, and honestly it could be in the top spot. I think there is enough there to say that it could potentially be the top, the number one. I'd have to really sort of think about it and do some mathematical equations to answer that question. But there's a possibility it could be in the top spot. Into the Radius, that is, by the way. I've been waiting for this game since the moment I knew that it was being made, that it was coming out, and I've had it on my wish list, all of that good stuff. It gets released next week. There's a bit of a it's got a bit of a bit on it. It gets released on mine and Leanne's anniversary, which you would think is hilarious, but it actually isn't. I have this thing that I don't play VR when my older children are in the house. I feel like the limited vision and hearing puts me at a disadvantage if there was like an emergency or something, or if one of them had a bad dream, woke up crying, fell out of bed. Any of the possibilities that could happen when you double the number of children in the house, I just don't do it. So not only does it come out on a day that I wouldn't be able to play, because that wouldn't be okay from a perspective of it's mine and Leanne's anniversary, I also wouldn't be playing it because of all the children in the house. However, there's absolutely no way that I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to play the sequel to what might be my favourite all-time game. So, because of all the children in the house, me and Leanne aren't celebrating our anniversary on our anniversary, so that ticks one box. So I just have to negotiate with the children. And I worked out. I cracked the code. I'm going to convince my eldest to sit and play with me. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hang on a minute, it's VR. It needs a VR headset. It's not a 2-player. Yeah, but it's going to be PC VR, so it'll be running on the monitor as well. So I can be like, hey, let's go and fight scary monsters together. I'm sure that'll go down well. Honestly, I can't necessarily see me playing it on day of release. On the flip side, I also can't see me not. So I'm in this real kind of, what do I do? Kind of area. I can tell you this much. Today, Leanne very kindly took the money and paid it into the bank so that I could then order the Steam credit, which is already on its way and should, in theory, be here in a few days, which means that I can update the account and make the purchase on the day. So, it will come as no surprise. Look out for a lot of Into the Radius 2 reviews coming your way. Speaking of something in a similar vein, quite long-winded, so I'm going to try and cut it down as much as I can. Probably no surprises at this point in time. I love technology. Technology is one of my favourite things to a degree. There is technology that I am drawn to, and there is technology I have no interest in. Some technology I have started out with, I have no interest in that, and come round quite quickly. I'll give you a couple of examples. First time I put a genuine, proper VR headset on and played a genuine, proper VR game, instantly I went, this is all I've ever wanted to do as far as gaming's concerned. And I think that has pretty much stood up. The other example would be the Steam Deck. When it was announced, I went, oh my God, I have zero interest and or use for an item like that. Don't bring it anywhere near me. I want nothing to do with it. However, having played one, used one, had the opportunity to spend some time with one, I was like, how have I lived my life up to this point without this item? I need this in my life. Those are the examples I will give. I love technology. I love the technology that I like, and etc., etc. Some stuff I really enjoy when technology does what you want it to do. Other times I really enjoy it when technology does the one thing you hope it would do, but you know it won't, and it does. I use a computer system at work, and every time I think, man, I wish it could just do this. I very quickly find out that it can, and I rejoice because it's all time saving, and it's just super cool. It's so cool when you're like, man, I really wish this could do this, and the person that built it goes, it can? Just press this button. It's like, that is freaking awesome. You have just saved me multiple hours of work. I love stuff like that. So, a little bit of backstory. One of the things that I wanted for my birthday was a game controller. I have a variety of game controllers in my house, but I am a little bit weird, odd. I had to say something yesterday with one of my children in earshot. I was like, oh, I nearly sorted this thing out, but I'm weird, so I couldn't. And my daughter was like, you're not weird. I was like, I am. You just don't. You just can't hear it because it's in my head. One of the items I'd asked for was a game controller, specifically for the Steam Deck. So that was That was how it was searched for, and that was how it was purchased. The one that I got is super freaking cool. It looks awesome. It is slick as anything, and lights up funky colours when you turn it on. Colour me absolutely ecstatic. When I synced it to the Steam Deck said, "This is a Switch Pro controller." And I said, "It isn't, but if you want to think that, that's fine. I have no issues with that." I promptly went about playing a game and couldn't work out why all the buttons were wrong. Okay, maybe it's the fact that the Steam Deck doesn't realise that this is a controller of a particular type. Maybe I just need to look at that. And whilst I was looking at it, I realised that the picture showed the buttons were correct. The only problem being is I don't play Switch. I didn't realise that Switch games, or game controllers, the buttons are wrong. As we all know, bottom is X. No, I'm telling you freaking... Jesus Christ. Bottom is A. Right is B. Top is Y. Left is X. Not on a Switch controller, it's not. And I went, you are freaking kidding me. Because then I looked at the controller, and that the controller was laid out. B at the bottom, A right, X at the top, Y left. I was like, it couldn't be much more backwards. So I was like, right, okay, I'm going to have to learn new button configuration to play these games. And I was like, I'm proper disappointed. This controller is so cool. It looks so amazing. It's so awesome. Why did it have to let me down right at the end? Me and Leanne have this a bit of a running kind of... It's kind of like a running joke, but it's not all that funny. Often there are times that whenever she buys me something, that it's just wrong, and it's not through any fault of hers. It's just this weird thing. I can be like, oh man, I can't wait to get that game. I can't wait to play that game. That game looks so freaking awesome. I can't wait. Oh my God, it's going to be amazing. If she buys it, it will be the worst game I've ever played. And I will spend my time going, how it had so much promise. If she buys me a piece of technology, it won't work. If, in this case, I ask for a specific thing, she buys that thing, I take it out of the box and go, how did I miss that? So, a couple of days later, I'm playing away on the Steam Deck. Got a little dock action going, got a little controller action going. I'm like, I think I'm pretty much, I'm getting it. I'm getting it. The whole time in the back of my head, I was like, dude, come on. This is technology. Technology is not going to let you down. Technology is going to say, I am configured as a Switch controller, but why don't you just tell me that I'm an Xbox controller? And it doesn't matter. You know the buttons. You don't look at the controller before you press the buttons. You know the buttons. So tell the Steam Deck you're an Xbox controller and play it as if it's an Xbox controller. I'm like, that's genius. Absolute genius. I looked it up. There was a lot of long-winded explanations, very much like this one is, about how you can do it if you stand on your head, facing the moon, do a spin, do a back kick, all sorts of sacrifice a banana at 3 a.m. All of this stuff. I was like, why does it have to be so fucking difficult? I randomly stumbled into a menu whilst mooching around on the Steam Deck. I randomly stumbled into a menu. It was obviously a controller-based menu that had a series of options. One of those options was, when the controller connects, don't recognize it as a Switch controller for the button configuration. Recognize it as a standard controller with a different button configuration. And I went, Are you freaking kidding me? What in the world could possibly possess the exact thing I need it to do to exist? What reason? Now, I can tell you exactly what the reason is. Multiple people have connected multiple controllers that identify as Switch controllers. And those people have gone, but the Steam Deck's control layout isn't that. I don't want to play those button combinations. Man, I wish there was a way that you could flick a switch and it would just not do that. Because that's exactly what it was. It was one of those switchy little button press things. I pressed it, I went back to using the controller, and it was as if I was using an Xbox or a PlayStation controller in that sort of configuration. And I went, holy shitballs, now I can play games the way I would play any game. And honestly, it made me so happy. I kept saying to Leanne, I was like, I can't believe that I found it. I can't believe it exists. And I can't believe it works. There's so many things I can't believe. But they're real. And they exist. And they make me so happy. Somebody is listening to this right now thinking, you're so sad. I imagine in years to come, it's probably one of my children like, oh my God, Dad, you're such a loser. I think I've already started floating into that realm. I took my eldest to her prom, and she couldn't get rid of me fast enough. And I'm like, I guess I'll go then. She was like, yeah, go. Like, oh. Okay then. That was, yeah, I felt real like, we're at that stage, are we? Well, time to write that child off and pick a new favourite. I mean, not favourite, no, I don't mean favourite, no. None of my children are my favourites. But, in hindsight, I think there was a boy. Yeah, I think there was a boy situation. I've seen pictures. There was a boy. Don't know how I feel about it. That's absolutely not true. I know exactly how I feel about it. I feel fine. I'm like, cool. Good for her. There we go. That was the week. That was. Absolutely amazing birthday. Absolutely amazing game announcement and amazing technology. Honestly, I have had the week. I have had a week. It has been phenomenal. Right up to today. I stepped out of bed this morning and I went, today's going to suck balls. And do you want to know something? I was not wrong. Today sucked ass through a straw. Honestly, I felt like I was getting punched in the dick from the moment my feet touched the ground this morning, and it lasted all freaking day. Oh, today's been a doozy. Anyway, I have loads of shit to go through this week. Dilly-dallying ain't going to get it done. Let's drink a Guinness and get on with it. Number one, let's on TV. And in a world where I don't watch a lot of TV, I watch a lot of TV. 3 episodes of The Bear. Series 3, episode 4, 5 and 6. Can't give you specifics. That's not true. I'm going to look them up. I'm not going to lie. I knew that this series had not had good reviews. I am always dubious and wary of reviews. I don't really put too much stock in them. However, Sometimes reviews are reviews for a reason. So, Episode 4. Episode 4, I spent the entire time going, why? Why would anybody do this? Why would anybody say, oh, I'm going to open a restaurant if it's so fucking miserable? Why, after a month, can nobody wash dishes? Why, after a month, can a woman who's been making the same thing all day get to the end of the day and not be able to make it? Why is the guy at the top of the food chain, pun intended, having some sort of nervous mental breakdown and not actually be able to do the thing that he's set out to do? The whole episode was just a giant question mark. So that was episode 4. Episode 5 literally spent the time going, what is it we are doing here? Episode 5, I think, was the one that was set the majority of it. I think I've watched more episodes than I think. What have I written down here for episode 5? I've written, what are we doing here? Episode 6 was the one that was set in the past. Like, really in the past. One character, one of the sort of the B characters, and how it is that they came to be working in the original restaurant, not the current version of the restaurant, and how awful everything was for them. But it was set in the past, yet it reeked a lot of more present times. There was a lot of like business issues. And then I watched an episode this evening where I sort of like halfway through the episode, I turned to Leanna and I just went, is this a genuine episode? Is this the episode that they decided to do? There is a point in time, and I don't mean a short moment, there is a point in time where we are watching someone go, what is essentially to the supermarket. That was the point. I shouted, are we genuinely watching this for our episode? I know this series has had bad reviews. I didn't want to believe that a series that had been so great up to this point could get bad reviews. Oh my God. You can't believe that this is what they've provided, that this is what they've put out, that they've genuinely gone, yeah, this is acceptable. It's so insane to me that this was the answer. Oh, man. If you get to the end of an episode and you go, why did I give you half an hour for you to throw it down the drain? Something's gone wrong. In the process, something's gone wrong. On the flip side, I watched episode 4 of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. An enjoyable episode. I liked it. It was an episode where the Smiths meet other Smiths who are a higher level of clearance / sort of responsibility to them. It was one of those sort of things. The whole episode, I'm like, I hate this. Because it's like couples meeting couples. So everything's exaggerated. Everything's over the top. Everything's like just cringe. Absolute cringe. Then it had a real highlight towards the back end of the episode. And then right at the end, where I was like, ugh. Donald Glover and the lady that plays Jane. I must stop referring to her as the lady that plays Jane and actually find out what her name is. I think her name might be and again, having butchered a name already this evening, I don't know if that's really where I should be. So, let's not butcher any more names. Maya Erskine, for fuck's sake. The lady that plays Jane. I've absolutely forgotten what tangent I was on at that point in time. Yeah, she was saying that she didn't like the other two Smiths, at which point it burst into this conversation about they both hated the interactions that they were having. They then went on about how they'd said this and they'd done this and said the other, and I was like, fantastic. So they've acknowledged the fact that that whole couple interaction is just awful. Which kind of made the whole thing better. There has been, I think each episode has had that element of, I don't know if this is a good episode. And then there's been one factor that has pulled the whole episode together. So I like it. I've been enjoying it. I recommended it to someone today. I was like, I recommend this show. I recommend you watch it. They absolutely won't. But yeah, it's been good. Again, 4 episodes in. I'll definitely give it another episode. I think they'd have to do a fair amount to lose me at this point in time. If you compare it, I think we can say if you compare it to The Bear, honestly, as far as The Bear is concerned, I could not watch any more. Other than the completionist aspect of it all. I have watched 2 films this week, and that is a bold-faced lie. I have watched 1 film this week, and I have finished a film that has taken me 2 weeks to watch. Now then, that poses a lot of questions. How come? How long does it take to watch a film? What have you been doing in that 2 weeks? Etc., etc. Well, let me start with this. The film in question was 2 3/4 hours long. And I'll tell you this much. No, not a lot happened in that time. For 2 weeks, I spent watching Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Now, originally, it was entitled Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I believe it has had a title change because the Part 1 has been dropped. And I think that is largely to do with the fact that the film was considered to be a flop. Now, if you were to ask me, why do you think it was a flop? Other than the fact that in a lot of ways it was boring, why do I think it was a flop? Because the first credit on that film was a Tom Cruise production. And the moment I saw that, I went, this is going to be garbage. Now, bearing in mind, it's had bad reviews. Bearing in mind, it was considered to be a flop. Bearing in mind, I believe it has changed the course of the Mission Impossible franchise, not for the better. Bearing all that in mind, I waited. I nearly got it for Christmas. We're in July. I bought it cheap. Again, it's another long story which would take too much to go into right now. So, death by marketing. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning has a stunt in it where Tom Cruise rides a motorbike off a cliff with a parachute on his back. Do you know why I didn't tell you that was a spoiler? Because every single person on the face of this earth, including people in far-reaching Amazon tribes, have seen that part of the film. That part of the film is buried in the very, very back end of the film, where pretty much the majority of all the action happens. There is this thing about Tom Cruise does a lot, if not all, of his own stunts. My argument for this film would be, I genuinely don't think that Tom Cruise was in any of the places that the film was set. It's another one of those films that's been hit by the CG bug. I imagine at some point somebody turned up and said, hey, how would you like to not travel all the way around the world to make these films, and instead just green screen it? You don't physically have to be there. We can just make it look like you're there. And I imagine Tom Cruise said that sounds like a fantastic idea. What he wasn't told was, at no point in time will it look like you are where you're saying you are. Other things like poor editing, things like one of the fight scenes was that bad, I was like, if I was the director, I'd have asked for another go on that one, because that bit of that fight scene was shocking. The fact that a main character, certainly for the last few films, got killed off and replaced so fast that I genuinely think that the person playing that role must have been fired partway through. I honestly wanted to look up whether they'd been fired halfway through the film because of the speed they were replaced in that movie. Things like, I have to at this point in time work on the principle that, you know, when everybody's talking about how good Tom Cruise looks, it's got to be surgery based. We know that Tom Cruise is not afraid to go, that extra mile. I think if you follow a conversation I was having the other day, which is where I said, funny thing about going back and watching the first Mission Impossible is you have to deal with Tom Cruise's original teeth. You've got that side of things. Now, I truly believe that we have to spend a lot of the film looking at what is Tom Cruise's facelift scar. There's a weird chin situation going on, and I don't know whether it's the case or not, but all I could think was, do you suppose that's where the incision was for the facelift? Not a lot happened in that film until the back end, where everything happened. There was so many questions about so many things. There's a character who's human but being controlled by AI, and there's a point where you're like, is this person supposed to be like a robot of some description? You're never really sure what they're going for. It genuinely just not a good film. One of the biggest things about it being that puts a real dampener on the franchise. It's had its ups and downs. I was trying to run through them with my eldest because I'm sort of teeing her up to watch them. I was like, the first one is a true spy espionage movie. It took the TV series, turned it into a movie. Second one was a summer blockbuster, for better or worse. Third one is the franchise trying to find its feet and not quite getting there. 4, 5, and 6. I think Dead Reckoning is number 7. 4, 5, and 6 is the real money. Great stunts, action-packed, etc., etc. And then we've got this, which I do think has probably derailed the franchise quite a bit. There'll be questions around certainly any future iterations. And of course, Whole thing ended on a cliffhanger because it was supposed to be part 1 of 3. So we're going to have that to deal with. Yeah, just not good. I'd maybe stretch to a 5 out of 10. There's a part of me that wants to give it a 4 out of 10. On the other hand, me and Leanne watched Godzilla X Kong, A New Empire. There's a big part of me that wants to tell you it was a bad film, but I can't. It reminded me a lot of Man of Steel. I've seen Man of Steel multiple times. I mean, we could be talking 20 times. The reason being is that I don't remember massive chunks of it, and I don't think I ever will. The way I describe it is that film punches you in the brain. I'm not saying it's bad. I really like it as a film. My brain just cannot process everything that's going on. Once you get to the back end of Man of Steel, when the fight breaks out and the fight just goes on for an hour, my brain kind of like shuts down. That's how I felt about Godzilla X Kong, A New Empire. There were points in time where my brain was like, I am checking out for a little while, Chief. I'll be back in a bit. And I go, ooh, hang on a minute. How am I supposed to follow this film without you? My brain said, I don't think that's the point, mate. Looked great, felt great. Couple of smatterings from like old Godzilla films, characters that have sort of been re-established. It wants you to believe that there's a whole other world below the surface of our world. If you believe that, or if you can believe that, you're fine for the rest, because I saw a clip a while ago where King Kong picked up a tiny King Kong and used that tiny King Kong to beat other King Kong type creatures, and I was like, oh, somebody's mocked that up as a joke. No, that was genuinely in the film. He then proceeds to throw tiny King Kong type ape gorilla thing into like a tree / bush. I was like, what? It was good. I wish it had not had a lot of things that it did. There was a character in it that was awful, and I just wished I'd been anything other than the character that they were. But yeah, it was good. It was a perfect Saturday night movie. So yeah, don't know what more you could possibly ask for from a Godzilla and Kong movie. Been playing a variety of different VR based things. The game Dead Second, which I think I had mentioned that I picked up. Didn't actually pick this one up cheap. Paid full price for it, although full price was cheap. I think that was because of the fact that it didn't have many legs. It only had about 8 or 9 levels, which kind of rattled through relatively quickly. Unlocked, like I skipped a load of the weapons and unlocked the last weapon. Last weapon was really cool. One of those games that when I finished it, it had all of these sort of like, go back and play this, or go back and play that, or do this again, or try and unlock other weapons, or blah, 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 blah. And I just went, I think I'm good, thanks. I've kind of played this, and I've got other stuff to do, so that was kind of that. It was very good, definitely worth the money. However, I have moved on. Flight 74 is an MacLeod game from what is essentially Meta's early access. So not quite as polished as games that have been released. But because of that, you get them cheap. And because of that, I got it very cheap. I think I paid 40p, maybe. Flight 74 works on the principle that you are a pilot of a twin propeller plane, and it's essentially like a flight sim. It tells you how to fly the plane, makes you fly around, and then you crash, and you then start working for some sort of drug cartel, doing a variety of different things. It's the weirdest combination of being quite fun and boring. Getting the plane off the ground, fun. Doing all the flicking the switches and taking off and checking your speeds and all of those things. Great. Flying from point A to point B, pretty boring. Having to land the plane, great. The 10 minutes in between, not as much fun. It also is the first game that may have possibly given me a little tiny bit of motion sickness. I can't say for sure because I haven't actually been back to it just yet, but I do intend to because I do want to give it a bit more of a go. Very much enjoyed it. Did a few levels. It was fun. Having tried to get a PC VR game to work, which it wouldn't, which seems to be a bit of a theme these days. I was like, well, I've got other PC VR games that I need to try. And one of the ones I tried was Serious Sam 3 VR. Played Serious Sam 3 VR, and it was very good, very enjoyable. One thing I will say was it was a little scary in places. It's a VR game that's got monsters, and that's fine. We've got no issues there. Those monsters do have a tendency to come right up to you, and some of them move quite quick. So you've got that situation, and there's also a level that was in the dark. You had a torch or a flashlight, if you're American. So there was that side of it, and then there's been a level where there was like not quite spider, but certainly insect enemies to deal with. And again, they come running at you. But very good, very enjoyable. Does that thing where it's like, hey, your guns, your handguns, unlimited ammo, and I don't think you have to reload them. You just shoot. So yeah, fun. One of the things that I wanted to get for my birthday was some stuff from the Steam sale. One of the things that I purchased from the Steam sale was a game that I've previously owned and had refunded because I couldn't get it to work. It was only after I refunded it I went, oh, I could have just done that. Picked it up again in the Steam sale. The game is called Ready or Not, which is kind of like a SWAT team simulator. You're the head of a SWAT team, and you've got to go into buildings and situations and deal with them in a SWAT sense. Very, very tactical shooter. And I was like, I love a tactical shooter. Rebought it using birthday money, reinstalled, ready to go. Here we go. Let's do this. The thing that I thought would work did, so I managed to get into the game to actually play it, and away we go. Went through the first set of doors into like a petrol station convenience store thing. Obviously, it's all American, so went in, got shot going through the door. So I had to fix up a bandage a wound, and in the process of bandaging a wound, I got killed. I was like, Interesting. Reloaded the game, started it all over again. Away we go, here we go in. Knowing full well that there was probably going to be somebody down a particular corridor, I made sure that I was aware of that. And the person who had been there the first time I played it wasn't there. I was like, cool. Went around a corner, and there was a person. I got shot, and shortly after that, I got killed. Interesting. Reload the game, go through the front door, get essentially ambushed by 2 people immediately. And I'm doing like all the police commands, like, you know, freeze, get down, drop your weapon, at which point they both open up and obliterate me. At which point I said, okay, maybe this is not for me right now. I said that maybe I was tired, maybe I was just not quite getting it. The game has had a substantial update. So I was like, right, okay, maybe they made it a little bit easier, shall we say. Put it out again yesterday to play. And no, they haven't made it any easier in the slightest. I can't get past the start of the level. I've Googled stuff, and I know I've looked stuff up previously that's saying it is very much a tactical shooter. You have to be very much on the bobby. You've got to, deal with these things tactically. However, I think the thing for me was, how would you like me to do that when I can't even get through the front door? Last night I was playing it and I was like, right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go around the side because I know for a fact there's a side door. Went through the side door, went round the door into the building, like the second door, and exactly the same situation. There was somebody there waiting for me. They shot me. Managed to heal myself, repair myself. And yeah, got killed immediately after that. So, yeah, I think I need to probably Google a little bit more around how the hell am I supposed to get past this situation. I have looked up a few things about the game's difficulty, and ultimately everything I've looked up says this game isn't difficult, you're just not playing it right. And I went, right, it's one of those. Something I will say is this: it did point out that it's probably not really a single player game, but I don't believe that. I've seen people playing it completely solo without a team and doing fine. So we'll see what I can find on the internet, because the internet's full of helpful things. Finally, I had a bit of a one of those last night. I had a situation where I put the VR on, but it wasn't really doing it for me. Not sure if that was the game I was playing or how I was feeling. I put the Steam Deck on, and not one, not two, but 3 games were like, nah, mate, it ain't happening. One couldn't even get through cutscenes. One is a game that I've had many fallings out with in the past, and apparently thinking playing it on the PC was going to make so much of a difference. Spoilers, it really didn't. And possibly the other one was maybe Ready or Not. So I had an absolute nightmare of an evening as far as games were concerned, and in the end I was like, do you know what? I'm going to sack all this off. I'm going to go and put the PlayStation on. I know what you're thinking. Wow. Because I remembered I owned Crime Boss, which I'd been playing on the Steam Deck, for the PC. Jesus Christ. For the PlayStation. I popped it on, and you know something? It was absolutely what the doctor ordered. That game's had a massive, and I do mean massive, update. We're talking like 90 gig. The update was crippling the Steam Deck. It was that big. I had to delete 40% of the games that were on it just to get the update for this game onto the Steam Deck. And, you know, the PlayStation did a whopping update whilst my daughter was watching a film. Did it in the background kind of thing. What I can say is off the top of my head, I can't tell you any major differences. It has made the game, there's a word I'm trying to avoid using, I will say more playable. The unfortunate thing is that Crime Boss is always moving in a particular direction. And that direction is always to the point where you're ultimately going to lose and have to start the whole thing all over again. So there was a point in time where I had the option to either end the day or try and take another territory. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to try and take another territory, which I did, and I lost 14 soldiers. And I think at that point in time, I only had 34. And it's hard to explain, but then you have to go and pay to hire more soldiers, and all of that is you losing money. So at the point in time, it's spend $100,000 on new equipment. I'm like, I don't have $100,000. So it's stuff like that. It's all heading towards you ultimately failing, and that's kind of that. So we'll see where that one goes. It was enjoyable while I was playing it last night. So, yeah, there you go. That, ladies and gents, is that. That is the week that was. And, that's the podcast. Thank you very much, and I will catch you next time. So there you go. What do you think of that? Another one done, another one gone. Big thank you for watching, big thank you for listening, big thank you for being a part of this thing that we do. Before you go, please do consider like, share, subscribe and comment. Leave reviews where you can leave reviews. Check out the website, thecookiecast.com. There we've got social media links and an email button, and that way you can get in touch with us. That's it for this one. Until next time, I'm going to say bye, and I'll see you then.
You've just listened to another episode of Cookie Cast. Thanks for listening.